Got my rain gear. So where are we?
We are at Bounds, New Orleans street food. We are doing a boozy brunch tour.
Boozy brunch tour.
Our first booze is a hurricane. Which
Hurricane.
For me, it's a little sweet. I don't think I'll be finishing.
No, I ain't knocking this whole thing back.
Let's see.
Yes, we are.
Come on over to me real quick.
Alright, y'all ready? Okay, so
Y'all
I'm
ready for this?
Carolyn. We are gonna go take a quick little walk around the quarter. Y'all got drinks to start out with. I'm gonna walk you around, talk to you about the history, how food got started, basically how New Orleans got started. We're gonna show you a couple of the restaurants, we're gonna take a little stroll, and then we're gonna come back here and brunch. Sound good? Yes. Perfect, and drink more. You ready? Alright, come on.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey.
Have a great time, y'all.
See ya.
Where are you from? New York. You're probably where you wear them more than we do.
Oh, yeah.
It's yeah, we didn't either. What is it? All of a sudden it was 75 last week, and then it just plummeted.
Oh, you want to go down? Who's the next week?
Like they said, yeah. We'll
Like
see how true that
Thanksgiving.
actually is.
You want a straw, Mama?
I do.
This time of year and all winter it tends to bounce.
Hello, folks. We'll be on the tour together. Hi.
Did you at least bring jeans and things?
So we're dressed like New York. I saw 51, 1, 2, 3 days, and I was like, okay.
I have this weird memory of my mom taking me to San Francisco when I was a kid.
San Francisco?
And it was so cold in the summer, we didn't have any idea. What? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In my mind, it was the 70s.
Oh.
We'll probably
Because it was 70, like a couple days ago.
we'll probably be near a corner store. You could grab something like this if you see it.
Yeah, we will. We'll be passing things to grab.
I was just in my mind.
We all thought that.
I know.
That. It typically this time of year it It was just one of those weird things where we're going back and forth. A week and a half later. I mean, I'm taking it over the years. We've plummeted to like the 30s and 20s. Where are you from? Maryland. Okay, you guys are all the same. Correct?
Let's do the tour.
I like the proper water. You knew how many umbrellas I've got through in this city? It's ridiculous because when the wind picks up, they just...
Fion.
I had one during a tropical storm and I'm like, this is not going well. None of this. Like, I give up.
If you want to buy a good one, it's windproof. It's called G4
G4?
on Amazon.
Okay.
And they're not real expensive.
No.
They're so good. They're big.
And the wind goes through it. It won't take it away.
Yeah.
I like those, the inverted ones too, with the
Yeah.
inside out almost. Those work really well.
It's funny, after like a hurricane or a snowstorm, there's a trade station in New York. It looks like an umbrella graveyard.
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
all people go now.
how you stay warm. Oh, excuse me, miss. I didn't know I had
We all in
company.
the same group.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm walking in there.
There I am. Can't miss me. I'm advertising Sazerac.
He said foot candy if I heard that. Oh, yeah, that's sort of fantastic. I bought my birthday. It's right over there.
Yeah, it's back here.
That pink sign. I bought my.
Oh, it's actually called
Foot candy.
I thought someone was saying that.
Oh no, no! I bought my shoes for my birthday there, and they're like big old Betsy Johnson.
Oh, boy.
They're all like flowers and leopard print. The heel's like this big. They were great for about 3 hours, and then I realized I was way too drunk to be walking around in those shoes down here. So it turned into a little bit of an adventure. Y'all just come in a little bit. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Okay. So this is the boozy brunch tour. So basically, we're gonna talk about food and drink for the entire time. It seems like a great way to go, right?
Yes.
So to order, you're like, we're here for it. So, you're good. So in order to understand how this all really comes together, you've got to understand how New Orleans came together. So we started back in 1718, which is a pretty old city for the country, if you think about it. A lot of people don't realize it's older than most cities in America when you look back at the timeline. So when we settled, we were actually a French colony. So the French get here, which you should probably gather from French Quarter, makes sense, right? And the French flags and French things all over the place, fleur-de-lis especially. So when they got here, they actually found what is this curve along the Mississippi River. Y'all seen the river over there, right? Okay, good. Let's not go see it today if it's cold and chilly. But that's where the river sits, and it does bend around the city. Have y'all heard us say Crescent City? Okay, so Crescent is like a crescent moon shape. A lot of times the nickname for New Orleans is Crescent City.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that curve along the river that creates that right there. So one of the reasons they wanted it is because it's a high point along the river, meaning they shouldn't flood in this area. They shouldn't have too many issues regarding those types of things. So they went ahead and they started carving out the colony right here. This is actually the beginning of the city. This is where New Orleans started. The French Quarter is the oldest part. Literally where we're standing is the absolute oldest.
All right.
With the church in the center. You got the Cabildo, the Presbyterian, the church government, all of this is the beginning. So the French colony was obviously that French king with us, but there's a lot of interchange in New Orleans about culture, about people, about ethnicity, about who came here. So you have to remember, y'all we reference America as a melting pot. Okay, I really think New Orleans is the only actual melting pot in the country if you look at it from that angle. I use gumbo pot more often because it makes more sense in this area. So you'll notice the way it works is that there's more and more people or flavor being added to that pot as the years sort of go on. So we start with a French base, right? We do become a Spanish colony in the 1760s. The Spanish honestly didn't do a whole lot in culinary. They really truthfully didn't bring a lot of that with them. What they're really known for is actually the architecture. One of my favorite things about the French Quarter is it's very, very, very little French architecture left. There's only a few buildings down here that are still French. One is going to be Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop, which is on the corner of Bourbon and St. Philip.
All right.
You're there? That's a French building. And then the other one is the old Ursuline Convent. There's a few more scattered around. Almost everything else is Spanish or then American going on throughout the years. The reason is the French built with wood. The wood burned down during the Great Fires. Spanish were a little better at brick, metal, things that withheld flame, essentially. So realistically, when you look at that, we're still mainly French at this point in history. Obviously, it all shifts after Louisiana Purchase, which I'll talk about later on, and we become an American colony. But realistically, from the very beginning, we always talk about Creole. So Creole means a lot of things. To break it down and make it make sense, Creole is a Spanish word. It means it's Creole. So what it means is that you're born of an area. So you're born as with one European parent at least in a European colony. You want to break it down farther, what it really means in New Orleans, because originally we had more men in this city than women. I actually still think that's true. I'm convinced to this day there's more men in this town than women. Right, I know. Trust me.
Not right here, right now.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, there's an old phrase, don't take the locals, and there's a reason for it. I always laugh. I'm like, oh Lord, this is a hot mess going on here. So what you have to realize though is that obviously we had a lot of Africans coming this way through the slave trade. So realistically, what Creole becomes in this area is one European parent and then one African parent, mainly the mothers. And then typically it was also Native American parents. So exactly, that's what Creole.
What Native American tribes was here?
We had a lot actually. We had about 4. We had some of the Cree, I want to say, some Homa. What was the other one? God, I'm losing my whole train of thought. Yes, there was a little bit of Cherokee in this area as well. And there's a few more that I'm not coming up with off the top of my head. But this was Native area in this land before. So when you break that down, you have French Creole, you have Spanish Creole, you have Louisiana Creole, you have African Creole, you have Haitian Creole. Realistically, Louisiana Creole encompasses the whole sector of anyone from this area. But if you really break it down to food, people always want to say it's city food, which is fair to some degree because we always put Creole versus Cajun. Y'all have heard Cajun before, right? Okay. I love when people look at me and they're like, well, city people are Creole people and Cajuns are country people, and so that's their food. And I'm like, I mean, you're not 100% wrong, you're just missing all the other pieces to it. So Creoles were the people that settled in the city, obviously from that description, right? Okay, Cajuns are descendants of Acadians. So Acadians are French Canadian. So remember, we were a French colony. So when the British actually took Canada, they expelled all of those French people that were unwilling to convert to Protestantism versus Catholicism. So they had to flee the country. We had land down here. The French government actually parceled them off pockets of land. They didn't give them the city. They gave them the swamps outside this area. So realistically, the country versus city makes sense. It's just leaving out a lot of details. It's still a French base. You have to remember that, okay? So when it comes to food, Creole food is typically going to be things that you would be able to get through a port city. So it's going to be higher fat contents like butter, oils, more wine, more food that you're bringing in or importing. Because what you've got to really remember is that they didn't know anything about this climate. They had no idea what would grow here. They didn't have a clue. They brought what they knew in France and then had to retract about 30 times because it wasn't working here. So if you look at French cuisine, and actually you look at most cuisines, there's always going to be a base when you make everything. In French, it's the mirepoix. So it's carrot, celery, onion. And then you saute that, you boil it up, you basically form it as you're beginning to any meal you make. Well, we tried to replicate that here. Problem is that carrots don't grow well in this climate. Like carrots don't grow great in a swamp, is what I'm trying to tell you. So they had to swamp it out and they put in bell pepper instead, green bell pepper. Have y'all heard of the Trinity? Or the Holy Trinity?
It's a Holy Trinity.
I think Holy Trinity is a Catholic term. We use it as a food term as well. It's green pepper, onion, and celery in that aspect. It's replacing the carrot. You see what's going on? That's the base for almost all of our menus or meals right there. So you see a lot of gumbo, you see jambalaya, you see etouffee, you see a lot of that moving through the city. But when it comes to gumbo, this is where it gets really confusing again. Gumbo's like a stew. If you've never had it, it's perfect in this type of weather. This is the best, this is gumbo weather right here. But one of the things that's really interesting is that Cajun gumbo and Creole gumbo look nothing alike. Creole gumbo is typically red based. So that's because they're adding tomatoes in. And I'm gonna explain where that ties in just a minute. But one of the other combination or conversations about gumbo is that a lot of people think okra is a vegetable. Okra means gumbo, gumbo means okra. There's a lot of confusion between the two. It doesn't. But okra actually isn't even native to this area. So what most people think about the origin of okra is that it came from the Middle East originally, made its way to Africa. How we got it here, it obviously moved through the slave trade is what it was. One of the stories is that mothers, in particular, were braiding okra seeds into their children's hair before they put them on the boats. So that way when they got here, they'd have something to plant that would be from their home country. It's why okra's gotten very prolific in this area, in the South in particular. Why it's getting mixed up with gumbo all the time. You can use it as a thickening agent. Yeah. And a lot of times out, especially in Asian country where they didn't have access to a lot of other things, they would use okra as that combination. So the red with the tomato base, meaning Creole gumbo, we had a lot of Sicilians and Italians come this way in the late 1800s. They're the ones who brought the tomatoes. We weren't growing tomatoes here until they showed up. So when they showed up, they started bringing in tomatoes. It was a whole new ingredient. So typically you were getting them in these areas. So they would be putting the tomato base into their gumbo. So Creole gumbo is red. Cajun gumbo is going to be brown. Or I'm sorry, brown. Actually, I like Cajun gumbo better. Brown. Typically brown, and it's thicker, almost always. One of the other hallmarks about Cajun gumbo is always supposed to have chicken and sausage. That's sort of the Cajun. Correct. Creole gumbo, you'll see more seafood, you'll see more pork, you'll see other options coming in. I'll be honest, if we get the gumbo where we eat today, they put pork in it all the time. I'm like, it's kind of not Cajun at that point, but close. They never put chicken in. I'm like, we'll just keep calling it that and sort of move along. But those are really sort of the differences between the two cuisines. Yeah.
When you get Cajun, you always think about something spicy. Now, is it spicy?
Okay, yes and no. So Cajun heat is typically not that quick heat. You know when you eat something and it like hits the tip of your tongue and it's hot, hot, hot right away? Cajun heat is more that slow heat. It's a lot of paprika. It's less cayenne than people think. They do use cayenne, obviously, but it's not going to hit you so fast. It's almost like that, like warming to some degree. That's how I always describe it. It's not as spicy as people. That's been sort of something that's come along over the years. A lot of times you'll see somebody that makes something and they'll call it Cajun, and it's because they've honest to God thrown a lot of pepper on it and blackened it or burnt it.
Cajun.
Realistically, yeah, Cajun spice. My favorite is the whole like blackened Cajun chicken.
Yeah.
It's literally burnt chicken,
It's burnt
and I'm like,
with a lot of pepper.
yeah, literally. I'm like, it's just burnt chicken, but okay. But that's realistically where that spicy comes in. Some of it's spicier, like boudin tends to be spicy, but I've had mild boudin as well. Our boudin balls we have at our restaurant, they're not spicy. They're actually a really nice sort of texture. Boudin is pork rolled up with sausage, and it's actually in a sauce, like a sausage casing. And then a lot of people take it, slice it up, bread it, and then fry it into boudin balls. They're really, really tasty. We're probably gonna have those later on in the tour. That's kind of where that spice and heat come in. Does that all make sense so far? Okay, the other one I always like to bring up, because it comes up in conversation, is the word filet. Have you ever heard gumbo filet?
No.
So, you saw it. You probably saw it on like a sign over here. There's a store that's actually called that. And everyone's always like, we're in front of a gumbo file. Where are we? And I'm like, it's filet, but we know what you're talking about. Don't worry. So filet is what they use as one of the seasonings in gumbo, typically Cajun gumbo. It's actually sassafras. So you grow the sassafras, you dry it, and then you grate it down. That's the seasoning on top. So that's where the name comes from. If you see it and you can't figure out what gumbo filet means, that's it right there. We're going to talk about prohibition. We're going to talk about alcohol. We're going to talk about drinks as we go too. Does it sound good?
Yes.
Y'all ready? Yes. All right, perfect. And the rain kind of slowed down. Look, if I talk long enough, we'll go right.
All right.
Here's my theory.
You can't control it, right?
Right.
Can you hold that for a sec?
I saw that too. I have no idea what it was. And then I saw there was another one that broke, like the
Like what?
like revolutionaries.
Oh.
Because I literally was just talking about Louisiana Purchase and with the whole British with British and whatnot, or War of 1812. I'm sorry. And I turned around and there was a man walking down the street who looked like he was like a Palmer ear. I went, oh, it's like all right, this is odd, but okay.
See what happens when you speak it?
Oh no, it's like I spoke it into existence. It was here.
I like the delivery. You see, he chucks it over there. Nobody's stealing that.
Over the door.
Yeah.
Y'all see Pat O'Brien's down there, right under the American flag? Okay, y'all been there yet? So Pat O'Brien is known as one of the commanders who invented. That's what you're drinking right now. Pat O'Brien's whiskeys don't quite taste as good as they used to, in all honesty. They have made, it's a volume thing. They've made so many. They live in kegs, they're pre-got, they're full of sugar that happens. But they actually pour them like you pour a beer out of a keg. I don't really like them anymore, to be honest with you. There's better options within the city. Go there for everything else though. Pat O'Brien's is legendary. A lot of different things that come out of there. A lot of what is really cool about them is that they were a big force during Prohibition. So obviously Prohibition was when America lost its mind for the first time around and decided we weren't having alcohol anymore. So y'all know a lot of cities were absolutely not having this idea. New Orleans really wasn't having this idea, okay? Just imagine the city with no alcohol, it'd be a nightmare. So what a lot of bars and restaurants did was they created speakeasies. So one of the gimmicks at O'Brien was you could buy admission to see the blind tiger or the white tiger. They would change the name regularly, and you would buy a ticket at the door, you would go on in, and occasionally they would have an actual cage back there, and a man crouched around like a tiger.
A man?
Yeah, a man, and that's where you would drink your alcohol. And then you'd go back out, you'd be like, oh, I just saw this great exhibit, and carry on your day. So when they actually ended Prohibition, they could get their legal liquor license. They turned into a bar and restaurant later on. So what they did is that at the time, everybody wanted whiskey. In like the late 1930s or early 1930s on up, nobody wanted rum. Rum was completely uncommon. It was not really popular around here. So what the distributors were doing, because everyone had a surplus of rum, they were selling people whiskey. But the deal was you had to buy about 10 cases of rum for every 2 cases of whiskey. So now everybody's got a surplus of rum and no one knows what to do with it. So O'Brien's is like, we've got to sell this. What are we going to do? So they started playing rum cocktails. And they mixed passion fruit, they mixed orange, they mixed cherry, a lot of sugary sort of drink styles in there. Poured up what you know is a hurricane, put it in a glass about this size, had everyone test it, and everyone's reaction was, well, it's good. Like, it tastes good, but it's honestly, it's nothing special. So they went ahead, they rebatched, they mixed it again, same exact ingredients, rum, passion fruit, cherry, lemon, orange, all of that. And then they took, have you ever seen a hurricane lamp?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how a hurricane lamp is narrow up here and then it bulbs out and it gets narrow again? They were looking around and they kept looking at their lamps. And they were like, wait, we have glasses that look just like that. They're called hurricane glasses, oddly enough. Poured the drink into the glass, took an orange slice, tapped it on top, put some cherries on it, put a fancy straw in. All of a sudden you got a 22-ounce drink that everyone wants. See how that works? You wrap it up a little bit differently and people are all over it. That's how they actually, exactly, hurricane. That's how they made the hurricane popular. So, honestly, like I said earlier, they're great as it used to be, but that's where it all comes from, right there. So, Pat O'Brien's is right there. If you ever go in, I would recommend you go for the dueling pianos. Go see the courtyard. Their food's actually decent. They're one of the, what was it? The dueling piano. It's the two guys. Basically, it's two different piano players, and they'll duel back and forth for the same song. It's kind of crazy and kind of strange, but it's also kind of entertaining. The other really interesting thing about them, they're one of the few places I feel bad about asking them for a gin fizz. Have you had a gin fizz?
Yeah.
Okay, so they have egg white in them. It takes an incredibly long time to make. You actually have to shake them for about 11 minutes by hand. They have a machine where they just lay the shaker on there and it shakes it.
All right.
I never feel bad when I ask them. Whenever I'm in like a craft bar, I'm like, oh, this seems like such a terrible thing to ask for. But you know, go to O'Brien's, they're a good option for that. Like I said, courtyard dueling pianos, probably skip the hurricane. That's what I'm saying, okay?
Yes.
Any questions on this one?
How's their food?
Walk in? Their food's actually good. Their food's good. I went there one time during Mardi Gras season, and I remember we were in there and it was so busy. And the waitress came by and she started trying to hand us beats. And me and my friend are like, no, we live here. And she's like, oh my God, let me tell you about my day. And like pulled the chair out. And she's like, did you see all this? I'm like, oh boy, this just got funny real quick. And then she sat with us for like 10 minutes. She's like, I should probably go back to work, shouldn't I? Y'all ready? We're gonna go this way, okay? We've got more prohibition stories.
All right.
There is the Vampire Speakeasy. No, but it's connected to the Vampire Cafe. It's the same owners, not literally physically connected. But if you go, it's Fritzl's Jazz Lounge on Bourbon Street. So it's literally go up.
Next to the honky tonk.
Yes, it's right there next to the
Oh,
honky
you
tonk.
went there, yeah, yes.
So if you go in, it's a cool little jazz bar. It actually is. It's one of the last like jazz places on Bourbon.
Fritz's.
Jazz Lounge.
It's nice. I got in the courtyard
It's
too.
real cute. But if you walk up to the bartender and say the Vampire sent me, they'll take you upstairs to a totally different bar.
Oh wow.
It's cool. It's all like velvety couches, like real like the tones. They've got an absinthe bar in there. They've got cocktails in there. You kind of forget where you're at because you can't hear Bourbon Street anymore. In the summertime, you can actually go out on the balcony, and it's so funny because you'll open the balcony and you'll look down and you're like, oh, this is still bourbon, but it doesn't feel like it on the
Nice.
inside. It's kind of cool.
Oh, so you don't have to look for a code, you just said the vampire.
The Vampire sent me. That is the code.
That's the code, yeah.
And actually,
That's
if
your
you go
pass.
in the Vampire Boutique, which is right behind the cafe, they have little business cards that have the code on. So I had people one
Vampire
time
sent-
on tour. They thought I was like sending them to get killed in some
Oh
random
my god.
bar.
Like literally to vampires?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm sending you to the actual Yes, that's what it says. It's the Vampire Council. So I told them to go into the boutique and get the card, and they came back the next day. They're like, no, it was really cool. We didn't die. I'm like, good.
Hooray.
Like, good. Stop drinking.
That'd be
so
my
much.
mom. She wouldn't bring her church group in there.
Oh, she said, yeah, that's blasphemy. Go in there with the garlic on your neck, right?
My mom would never go there. Never.
I wouldn't go there just because of the name. It's just goofy. No. Come on. I pulled it out. I don't like it.
Let's be careful now. Sue. Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever you did, it made him laugh.
These hurricanes got it in there, man. I'm loopy off
You know,
this.
at first I was like, oh, it's so sweet. Now I'm like used to it.
I'm loopy off this.
And you're going to have more.
No, we're not. Everything we do is going to be walking, talking, and then we go back and eat at the place.
booze.
I'm not having another hurricane. What do you want? Ma- Imagine if there was a Sazerac in this.
Why would you drink beer?
See, Sazeracs, they don't put them on ice for a reason, so they won't dilute, no matter how long you hold it. Uh-oh, yeah. Say, what do you know about these horse head things? Because I like them. Are they original?
No, they're actually all replicas.
Oh,
Nobody would have been buying horses up right there. They all had carriage houses.
Oh, yeah.
This is mostly local art. You find a lot of that now.
The garden.
That's right.
hello, miss. Chewy. Oh, that dude's badass.
It does look like you. It's a little toy donkey, right? Did you know that donkeys are whatever, you know, other animals?
Oh, yeah, you put one on your farm, he'll beat anything up.
They what?
You put a donkey on your farm, they'll protect the farm. They can kill a coyote. Yeah, they got a mean bite, and they really hate dogs. Really hate. They kill owners' dogs if you're not careful. Like if your dog runs in the field with the donkey, he might kill it.
I mean, I see donkeys all the time.
Yeah. No, they love people, but they hate dogs. Especially female ones, and if they have a baby around. Oh yeah. I mean, there's ugly YouTubes about it, but they really hate dogs. And they got a bite on them when they grab it. There's one with, he's got a coyote up in the air, shaking it like a dog would shake a bunny rabbit.
The Mad Hatter tour.
Oh. This is fun though, right?
If it wasn't raining.
Yeah, but, I mean, it could be raining. This is like annoying. I'm glad it's not pouring rain.
Yeah.
Like spring is our festival season because it's really nice.
Like April?
Yeah,
Yeah.
April, May.
Oh, miss, could you tell us what a calle is?
Isn't that bad? A what?
See, a calle.
Street.
Oh, that's what the
Spanish.
street was in Spanish when we were Spanish.
Oh, all right.
So that was what Royal Street
Calle
was called.
Ocho.
Calle.
I didn't know that. Now I know. I wasn't born knowing these things.
They're more Spanish than others.
We're gonna stop right here.
Like you know where you're
I'm
going.
here, don't worry. We'll stop right here for a minute, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I pointed out, which is probably not going to be very helpful to you today, but just like by a little way. People ask me about this all the time. They're like, where can we go eat on the balcony? And I walk right past it. got one today, file it away for another trip. But the other reason I bring it up is oysters are another huge part of the cuisine here. So oysters we have down here are Gulf Coast oysters. They do taste a little bit saltier, a little bit brinier than what the Atlantic oysters taste like. I prefer the Gulf taste over the Atlantic, that's just me though. Typically what people do is they either eat them raw or they eat them char grilled. So char grilled is when you put them on the grill, you put cheese on top, there's like a seasoning and an oil, and they're really tasty because they come out hot and you'll dip bread in that butter that's left over. Did you have them? I had them last night too because I've been dying for them forever. And I finally talked to one of my friends and I'm like, just please go get oysters with me before we go to work.
Where do you go to get them?
I go to MRP, which is actually down on St. Philip. It's a little tiny little bar, but they have really good oysters. And I've always been surprised because no one expects it to be there, but for down here, it's actually one of the good ones. Superior Seafood up on St. Charles. Basically, you hop the streetcar, go to St. Charles and Napoleon, and it's right there. So they do it's 7 days a week. It's Friday and 10 days a week. They do it every single day. It's from 4 to 6. And I think it's half off. Or something. It's a good deal if you go about it. Superior Seafood. And they're good. They're not bad. They're good oysters. There's the Atlantic oysters, and then there's the Gulf Coast oysters. We have Gulf Coast, yes. So the other reason I bring that up is if you peek back this way, can y'all see where it's like Antoine's back here?
What's it called?
Antoine's restaurant?
Antoine.
Run by the same family. They've never changed ownership.
Wow.
So
They've been run since 1840.
That's the same
Antoine's.
Same family.
Antoine's.
So Antoine's is great. It's been around forever, like I said, 1840. But one of the cool things about Antoine's is the way the building works. When you walk in, you've got the maitre d', and then there's a dining room behind him, and then another one, and they go backwards, and then it comes around, and they come forwards again. It's like a circle, almost going around, or a loop. So they had another really cool gimmick during Prohibition. They have an area in the middle, which is now a dining room, but it was called the mystery room at the time. So the way you accessed the mystery room was you went in the women's bathroom, there was a bookcase, you pulled out the bookcase and you walked right in. So what they had in there, it was all kegs. So when people came to dine, you would have 2 coffee cups at your table, which is a little weird because no one's using 2 coffee cups, right? So you'd be eating your meal and at some point in the course of the meal, the server would come by and say, is there anything else I can help you with? And if you wanted to consume alcohol, you'd say, well, it's a mystery to me, and you'd flip your coffee mug over. That was the cue. The waiter would walk away, you'd get up, you'd follow him right to the women's bathroom, through the bookcase, into the mystery room, and then you'd drink whatever they had in that room. And the liquor would change based on what they could get at the time. They had a whole good gimmick for what they were going to do if they ever got raided. I'm not sure it ever actually happened, but this was the plan they had in place. So allegedly the mystery room had a sawdust floor. It was all sawdust, just sort of sweeping along the sides. So the idea was this: if they ever got raided, government comes in, they would kick up a fuss and be like, okay, you can search the building, but we've got to clear the ladies' room first. It would be indecent if women were in there. We've got to make sure everybody's out. So they would let them take the rest of the building, and then they'd really quickly, everyone would run to the women's bathroom, go through the library bookcase, kick over all the kegs, sweep up the sawdust, and then start brewing coffee to cover the smell. I don't think it ever actually came to happening, but that was their plan, if it ever did. Obviously now they're a full restaurant, they do serve alcohol. If you go, do the Antoine's brunch. That's my favorite thing to do there. So you go in, it's about 4 courses. There's a bottomless champagne mimosa meal. You can eat a whole bunch of different things. They change it seasonally. They have oysters all the time. They have a lot of jambalaya, gumbo, things like that. Really good real style food. They also are where Oysters Rockefeller comes from. That's who invented it right there.
Antoine's.
Yes. The grandson
Invented
of the original
Oyster
owner
Rockefeller.
is the one who invented it.
Really?
They apparently have the recipe locked and sealed and no one can get to it. I think y'all realize someone's figured it out a long time ago because a lot of places have Oyster Rockefeller.
How'd Rockefeller steal it?
Yeah, we just went. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Theirs doesn't taste the same to me anymore either, but it's still good. They're still. I'm not saying they're bad. They're still good.
Is it
though.
good for dinner?
It is. It is. It's a nice restaurant too. I went for my birthday for brunch this year, and my favorite thing is they do the baked Alaska.
Oh,
So it's
man.
about this
I've
big.
never
It's a
had
cake,
that.
and it's got like frosting. They have like frosting design over
I
the
think
top.
it's egg whites.
And then it says Antoine's on the side. And when it looks like nothing, and then when you cut it open, it's all ice cream.
Yum.
In
Oh.
the middle. I don't know how we never finished it. There were 4 of us, and we were really drunk by that point. We're like, why are we eating ice cream?
Yeah.
Worth it though, okay? So remember that. Put that in your little drink.
Danes are here. Giant. The look like.
Yeah. Oh, the Danes are here.
Fucking asses are here.
Yeah.
Giant.
Look, the Danes are here.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Danish people will be commenting on you. Where are their ass? Where are their? Where are their asses? Box of money on the ground. Can you hold this, please? I cannot finish that. It's so sweet. I just cannot get through it. Those girls knocked it down. No, the liquor's in there, but they're so sweet.
Right there. And I'm like, buddy, police station, big stop. Okay. So leave that where it lies.
They still like donuts everywhere.
Right? But this is the Supreme Court building. On this side right here, we don't use it for that anymore. It was the state capitol at one point. It's really
Oh, this was the state capitol. What?
I love it. They were not. They were brought here, but they grow really well in this region. And at this point, they're kind of just growing here. I think people say that we never had palm trees because no. The first time I came to New Orleans was I grew up in Chicago.
This was the state capitol. Was. I don't know what it is now. And this is the police station.
And this one is not. We have the similar branches though. No, those are too big. I was looking at it going, no, it's not. This is a oh god, I can't remember. I looked it up one day and I can't remember, but it's that same peelable. Do you have the app? Okay, hang on, we're all gonna look down at it.
All right.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I knew it was.
I was wondering if you knew what kind of tree that was, but I don't want to test you.
Right, right. We're gonna find out. Dun, 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 dun. This is why I love technology.
At home, our oak trees grow so straight and tall, and they're all like.
They're a slightly different species of oak trees. They actually, do you notice how their root system is across the ground?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, the crepe myrtle.
It is?
See you.
Okay.
Go
You're
with,
right.
go with
It
your
looks
first.
bigger than most of them. That's why I wasn't sure when I looked back.
There's always some anomalies.
And you say they bloom real nice?
They do. They're gorgeous when they bloom.
Yeah, they're probably the same family.
That's really cool. Like, can I see it?
Myrtle, yeah. It's called crepe myrtle, but it's a species of crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle.
I like the feel of it. It's always fun.
I have to get that hat.
I used to live at a house on Esplanade, and the people next to me owned Super Thai, which is one of the Thai restaurants.
Sorry.
Okay. Did you
Starting my
get
next video. I'm going to share the YouTube I made from this. Okay. Hi.
I'm gonna go grab your other people that are just in the bathroom, and I'm coming back with mimosas. Sound good? And food. The food's coming too, I promise.
You're not kidding. This really is like a speakeasy
It's
back
like,
here.
we actually have a bar back here now too.
Where's the game controller? We can play
I
something.
know, right? Trust me, I'm working on. This is our break room too, so I'm working on them bringing
Okay.
us something.
That's really good.
I know, yeah. You'll come back here sometime before I was sleeping on the couch. Yeah. Like, just remember not. The food should be up in just a minute. We're gonna start with a couple appetizers, and then we've got our sort of main course, and we've got dessert at the very end, right? So you're gonna be full in just like half an hour or so, I promise. What hot sauce did you get? I'm super curious now. I heard hot sauce emergency. And
Well, I went in. I told them, I don't want the I Dare You hot sauce, but I want the 3/4 one where
Yeah.
most like normal people wouldn't eat it.
I love hot sauce. My brother, when I was a kid, would always try to give me hot flavored things, and now I just have a burnt tongue. Now,
You like hot? Yeah.
Beat me up for $21, but you got to pay the rent.
right. For Yeah, hot sauce.
How many bottles of hot sauce are you going to sell in a day?
Also true.
Yeah.
Also true. I have other collection of hot sauces right now. It's got a lot of different.
We did too, but you know what? They turn funky. You gotta
Yeah,
actually
they do.
turn, yeah.
I use them in enough things that I think I go through them fairly regularly. But no, they do after a couple of years. They get weird. We got a little crazy during the pandemic, kept buying hot sauce.
Yeah, we
This,
did too.
Like, yeah, right? Like hot sauce and random house goods. I don't know what anyone was doing at that point.
Yeah.
Suddenly I was during the pandemic.
Hot sauce and mustard.
What was it? I kept buying hot sauce. Like bottles of hot sauce to put on all my food.
That was supposed to kill the
Oh no, I was just bored. That's all it was. I was just bored.
Has anyone seen the show The Hot Ones where he interviews like stars and they eat chicken wings?
No, what's the show?
We went to that place in Brooklyn and bought a bunch of hot sauce. Yes.
Which part of Brooklyn is that?
Williamsburg.
Oh, Williamsburg.
I gotta watch that. I've never heard of it.
Oh, you got to see it. Hot Ones. Kevin.
Then they measure like the level of the pepper. It's called
Yeah.
a Scoville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them are scary. Like you could have a heart attack.
Like, this might not be the best of
Right.
It's like that chip. Have you seen that weird, like the one chip challenge?
Yes, it's like that.
Doritos?
I
At
don't know
the,
what it is. I'm terrified of it.
Yeah.
That says a
no,
lot.
if you breathe because it's covered in powder that makes it spicy. If you breathe that powder, you're going to be in a bad place. So you got to make sure you don't breathe in while you're crunching on it at all.
I think it's Doritos too much to think
I was
about.
like, yeah,
I
that's
know.
way too much to think
Yeah,
about.
right? What do people do that?
People do really strange things that I keep noticing. I love hot wings. But I have I like it so you can feel like the tingle
Yeah.
on your lips. Those are how I know I have good hot wings. That's my thing. There's a little corner store up on my old house, which is way out in the ninth floor. But it's got there's tons of wings on the menu.
Oh, hey now.
And my favorite one is the mango habanero. 'Cause
Oh,
it's like
that's good. That
whole
sounds
thing.
so good.
It's like, thank you, thank you.
Oh, good thing I brought that. Good thing I brought that.
That's one of the hottest pepper you
I'll
can
explain
drink.
which one is that
That's Scorpio.
What kind is it?
It's really,
Don't drop it.
it really bites you like a scorpion,
Yes.
okay?
Ah.
So,
See, I like a little flavor.
just a little taste.
Oh yeah, you got to start small.
Yeah.
How about we just share one of these? Okay. All right.
Frog leg, boudin ball, and gator bites.
I didn't even think I'd be using the hot sauce now. I just wanted it.
Look at that. So what you've got in front of you,
have my
the big
frog
one
legs,
is
I'm not eating it.
sorry, is a frog leg.
You what?
I'm not eating the fries.
That's
Can't
right
do
there.
that.
That's a frog leg.
Oh, that's a frog leg.
That's
That's a frog leg.
The round
I don't.
one,
Yes, I am. Of course.
boudin ball. Remember when I was talking about boudin earlier? And then the little ones are gator bites, the little chunks. So gator's one of those interesting ones that I always like to talk about because we eat gator in a lot of things in this area. You see gator out more in Asian food, typically more often. Gator's a little hard to come by now because we have a bit of an endangered population. So the way you hunt it, there's a lottery that goes out, and then you're only allowed to hunt that many gator that can be under a certain foot. Like there's restrictions, right? Yeah. That's a frog leg, yep, that's the one. And what they did to try to actually help the gator population and keep the food supply going is we actually harvest gator eggs now. So when the mama gator lays the eggs, they actually send drones and planes over, and they'll find the nest and they'll mark it. And then somebody has to come in, I always call it like it's like the Cajun rodeo model. Because the guy's job is to distract the mamas while they take the eggs. So literally, it's like a rodeo. And they actually pull the eggs, they incubate them, they take them to a gator farm. It really works because they only have about a 10 to 15% survival rate in the wild. Most gators don't make it, yeah. So what they do in captivity, you recently bumped that up from 10 to 15 to about 85 to 90% survival. So all the gators from that harvest, when they grow up, they give you about 30 or a certain length. They'll take half of them, they go into food manufacturing.
I can't get my cap back.
Live on the gator sanctuary.
Oh, they stay alive.
They do.
So what would be the reason they don't make it say captivity? Is it predators? Natural?
Not even
What
predators,
is it?
it's the ecosystem changes.
Oh, that's what I needed.
That's a boudin ball. So it's rice, sauce sausage, a lot of spices mixed up on the inside. That's my next question. But there's a lot of issues with the wetlands decreasing, with a lot of ecological problems in this area. Basically, the whole coastline is coming up and eroding. So we don't have, like, we're losing places like crazy. So they don't have any roads. Yeah. The other things that are happening out is when we get a hurricane, it completely shifts the ecosystem too, because it brings in all that salt water. It changes up everything to like, settles back down here.
We have a thing in the Northeast where it's so sad, but there's some kind of chemical in the air that is thinning shells of eagles.
Yeah, I've heard of that actually. Yeah, the eggs, right?
Yeah, they're not, they're propagating like normal.
It's happening everywhere in different doses.
You got a key in your pocket. I can't get this stupid plastic off it.
No, I don't. My keys are in my bag.
I got on a plane, so I couldn't carry a knife.
Do you want me to take it up into the kitchen and put it?
I can't get it off for the life of me.
Is the hot sauce good?
Yo, it's good.
Because like the meat itself wasn't bad, but there was a flavor that I kept tasting in it.
It ain't coming off there.
That I was like, it's the coke.
I'll take a corner bite.
I promised I would share, but it's not as crazy as it seems. If you want to try a doc,
Put some on top of the cap of your
Yeah.
sauce.
I can really thank you.
I'm not a hot sauce person.
Gumbo for you? This is gumbo order.
You got spoons for me?
They're coming. They're coming.
you're welcome.
Got it. Thank you.
Just dip to it careful. Ta-da! You did it by hand?
No, I had a knife.
I'm telling you. Thank you.
It was needed. I'll hold it. Thank you.
Here you go. You want to put that in your pocket?
It's pork. Pork, yep. So the crawfish grilled cheese that's in front of you, y'all familiar with crawfish?
Yes.
I mean, crawfish is one of my favorites. We're way out of crawfish season right now, which means we still have frozen tails, which is how you get what you're eating. But typically crawfish season is gonna be between like Mardi Gras time, so February, through usually about June. Sometimes you can still get it into July, but it's not usually as good by that point. So crawfish are about this big if you've never seen them. Mud bugs, the other term people use to them. Yeah, they're good. They're good. They're tiny. I mean, I've seen ones like this, but they're not. They're not big.
Yeah.
When you eat them, we do boils. So what you do is if the pot's about, it's literally about this tall. It's right up to my pot this tall. It sits up on a pedestal and it's a plate or a butane underneath. And you put the water in, you put the crawfish seasoning in, all the oil seasoning, and then you throw live crawfish in like you would lobster. You boil them. About 30 minutes later, you put corn in, you put sausage in, you put potatoes in. I've seen people do sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts. I've seen like everything under the sun. Go with crawfish boil. What was it?
Like a bush.
Yeah. It's good.
Knock it in there.
It's good. Yeah, it's spicy. When you take it out though, what typically you do if you're on a crawfish boil is people have big long tables and they line them with newspaper. Once you drain the water, you just dump the crawfish along the table, and then you eat them by, you pick them up, you hold them at the neck, twist the head off, and you have to suck out what's in the head. It tastes good, it's amazing, it's all soft. And then you push the meat up on the tail, and the tail meat is what you eat.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could do it.
Is it a shrimp flavor or is it like
Completely different.
Yeah.
It's kind of its own flavor.
Okay.
in all honesty.
Yeah, is it fish or
No.
But not,
He likes them.
it tastes like big.
One
It
day,
kind of tastes like shellfish, but not really. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Different. My favorite is one fish. It's just potatoes and corn and everything else. Like you get out there, you'll start with things, you'll eat crawfish. We had and the first 12 years ago in my house, I was dating at the time. And I think there's like 20 of us.
All right, Mr. Froggy. Let's see how delicious you are.
It was 11 o'clock when the last oil came out at night. It was me and somebody's girlfriend that sat there and finished it. We're like, we're gonna be eating. Like, we got through most of it. It was insane. Absolutely insane.
I took it twice and it worked.
So I need some hot sauce for my
There you go.
hot sauce.
So, we got a request for some hot sauce.
Okay,
We have hot sauce.
just a little bit.
Put it in your cap.
Okay, it's
Put
called
it in your cap.
pepper and it's really hot.
Yeah. And dip it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's tasty though.
Go careful. No, it's fine to dip in. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't think it's all beef. You need to have flavor.
I'm a messy guy. Do we have a roll of paper towels?
I can get them. This is.
Oh,
That was like Yeah, about. We have French Quarter Fest where they do food stands all over the quarter. And they do, there's a crawfish guy that comes out, and I was carrying them around and we were coming in and out, and I kept holding them out and making people eat them. And then went back and bought like 3 more pounds. They're amazing. I'm gonna go grab some napkins. I'll be right back. Actually, are they sure? They are here.
Oh, is that what that is?
We moved everything around the other day, so I never.
I thought it was a toaster.
I don't know. Okay, we could
Oh,
be
sorry.
Let's see nothing.
I thought it was a toaster too. But it's
It looks like
it does. It makes it super, but that's what I toasted.
We're not going to eat both of these crawfish. Can the young man have it? Can our buddy have this?
I don't know. We'll ask his dad. He can leave it.
You don't want.
He doesn't want.
That solves it. Don't like grilled
Your
cheese?
dad brought you to work again, didn't he?
Uh-huh. Crawfish grilled cheese?
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's great.
Wow.
One of our old manager's daughters used to be all the time too. She would come back here at times while we were skating in the back. She used to make bracelets for all of us.
Oh, yeah, that's what my daughter did. She'd be like, I better see you wearing them.
And she was so excited because in the summer I had it on all the time because it was like cool, like woven bracelet. And every time she'd see me, she'd be like, oh my god, you do have it. I was like, I love it, Zoe. Of course I have it.
No.
So just
As long as
so
it was, I would wear it with a little racket there.
Right.
Then look, I'm wearing it.
My mom worked in daycares for years, so we would always do things with the kids.
Oh, yeah. Some of them are so cute.
They're really good. How's the gumbo?
Good.
Good?
I remember everything's great. I'm
Haven't made it to yet?
gonna
So we didn't really
Yes.
talk about jambalaya.
Go ahead, grab it for us.
Jambalaya is more rice.
Go ahead, pick it up for us.
It means you're incorporating the rice into your entire meal. Gumbo, you're just putting the rice in, so to speak. I really, really like doing the potato salad and the gumbo. It seems like what? It seems like such a strange thing. The way I learned about it was that my friend had all of us over for Christmas one year. Christmas, like, bye. Everybody. She would do,
All right, fellas.
for everybody that had families to go to. So one year I was over there and she was cooking gumbo and let's just say there were already mimosas going and she forgot what she was doing. And she panicked because she didn't make any rice. And her son's like my age. He's like, Mom, we have potato salad. It's fine. We'll just put the potato salad in it. And I'm looking at them like, what? What do you mean you put the potato salad in it? And then I tried it and I'm like, oh, this is really
That's
good.
without the mayonnaise or with the mayonnaise?
Yeah, all with, but it's usually like a little bit lighter.
Right.
It tastes really good. Like it's strangely good, and I had no idea that was a thing. I thought it was just her dumb, invention. Because she didn't have anything else, and this is how we were saving the food. But I found out in North Louisiana, people do it a lot. It's actually really common to cook potato salad versus
It's the
rice.
way one's been spoiled is another man's.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, try it tonight. It's actually really
I
good.
love potato salad.
I did too. It's one of my favorites.
You said the spoiled is a spoiled.
Right.
Yeah, the sandwich is good.
I don't know what this is, so I'm just gonna.
No, leave it on.
I've been watching it.
Oh.
I love this movie.
That's sing too.
What was it?
Sing too.
Oh, that's what it was?
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention. That's all good.
I haven't seen it yet.
Usually it's like a fireplace
I didn't
scene.
see
Come
Sing
back,
One.
it'll be more interesting. They put this TV back here a while ago, now it's all of us just watching Netflix. I came back and was watching.
The guys would never leave here if you put a video game in front of it.
Oh, I know. We'd never get anybody out.
No.
I mean, we run tours all day long. The restaurants are all day too.
1899 this morning. Did you see that?
You what?
1899 this morning.
Is it good?
Weird shit, yeah.
Oh, I know. It's
Really?
good. It's good.
So,
So creepy.
can I take a poll? What was everyone's favorite? Because I got a favorite.
Out of all the stuff?
Yeah.
I think the booty ball was actually my favorite. So
Oh, I haven't tried that yet.
I haven't had it yet, but
I
I
think
find
the
I
gumbo
like
with
the
the hot
sandwich.
sauce.
yeah,
With the hot sauce.
Oh, with the hot sauce.
that's me too.
With the hot sauce.
Oh, okay.
You know what my favorite story involving hot sauce and gumbo is? Now I can tell you this. Have you ever heard of Dookie Chase's restaurant? Yes. It's in the Tremaine. It's Leah Chase ran it forever and ever and ever. She was a real chef. She actually passed away, God was it, 2019? She was in her late 90s when she died.
Oh, wow.
But she was famous. If you've seen Princess and the Frog, That's what they modeled Tiana after. That was the chase in her life. But what's really funny is that ever since she opened back in the late 1930s, it was basically that restaurant was legendary. She would hold civil rights meetings in it. She would let she would meet people. She would let them meet there. And then one of the other things is that every single U.S. president has eaten, except for one, has eaten
Sausage
there
ball.
during his term. That was absolutely during his term. I always like just let people guess because everyone figures it out. Not loud. During their term. Right, I know. It's funny when people are like, I don't know who it could be, and I'm like, think a little harder. It'll be okay. You'll get there. But when President Obama was there when he was first inaugurated,
Sausage ball.
it was him and Secret Service and Leah Chase, and they were sitting there eating her gumbo. I mean, this is on YouTube. You can find it if you want to see it. It's hilarious. He reached over, like with the press, everybody talking. He reaches over to grab hot sauce and starts to shake it in the gumbo. She slapped his hand, like knocked the hot sauce bottle out, it was flying, and just goes, nobody puts hot sauce in my gumbo. And I mean, she was probably like 87 at the time.
Secret Service, like.
Oh, they were like, what do we do? Like, everyone was just sort of like, what do we do? Apparently, the president started laughing, and really moved on.
He would have a sense of humor.
I joked, I'm like, that poor man has probably never tried with hot sauce in anything ever again. He was like, no, I'm good.
He's always gonna remember.
Right, until he got whacked by Leah Chase. But I mean, she was tiny, she was like this big. And it always cracks me up if you think about it. She's definitely the oldest woman who's ever assaulted a president. She's one of the only,
I was gonna say one of the only.
and the only one who has got away with it.
Exactly.
I was like, that's
I'm not going
fantastic.
back to the one that could shoot.
She always, like when I would see her on TV, she would very strangely remind me of my grandma. I don't really know why, like something on her personality, the way she would talk. And then I heard the hot sauce story, and I'm like, that's it. That's it. Because I can see my grandma, if you put something that she didn't put in there, she'd be like, no. Then no, I don't care who you
But don't change American.
Right. And my grandma was also about that big, so that makes total sense.
We used to go to this barbecue.
Oh, of course.
And he would always bring us hot sauce. And the owner would come out and be dirty looking at us,
Right.
glaring at him, and he had no idea. The men just don't know. And I'm like, he's making me uncomfortable. He's giving us like this.
It'll make you cry.
Yeah, because you change and whatever.
No, I
Every
don't
minute, yeah.
from Trinidad. It's hot, it's really hot, okay? It's good though, it's got flavor. Yeah, it does.
It'll make you cry in a good way.
The one I really like is
I cried another night, I actually drank it a little bit.
Or Haitian, I can't actually remember.
Does it? It is a tiny bit.
They have a mango one, they have a
Oh, I
spicy
know
one,
that
those are
one.
my favorite. I love those. Like the first time I had one, I'm like, why have I never had this before? I put them on everything. Like I put them on tacos, I put them on, when I make jambalaya at home, I put the mango one over the top. It's so good.
You know what's good in the rear? Dattle. D-A-T-L.
No, I need to find
It's
that.
from Florida.
That's from Florida.
It's a pepper that's only grown in Florida.
Really?
It's so, it's.
What is it, Dato?
Dattle.
D-A-T-O?
D-A-T-L.
That's it.
My favorite was the frog legs. There's no frogs that are safe around me again.
Which one is that?
Frog
Frog
legs.
legs. When I first had frog legs, I had a friend who she grew up in swamp country essentially, and she was like, "Come on, we're gonna go out and eat where my parents used to take us." We drove 3.5 hours, and I'm like, "Where is she taking me out to the swamp to kill me? Like, what is this?" So we get there, and it's this little house almost, like built up on stilts over like a bayou. And I'm like, "Oh God, what is this?" So we walked in. Well, you could go up the driveway in, but we walked in, and it literally looked like a house built into a restaurant. And I'm like, okay, this is strange, but okay. So we sat down outside, and the waitress comes over, and she puts down 2 baskets of bread, and I'm like, what are 2? And she goes, well, one's for you and one's for the gators. And then I looked over, the gators were all swimming in that water, and we would throw them bread during the meal. That's what you did. So we had gumbo, which is one of the best gumbo I've ever had. We had crab legs, we had crab cakes, we had soft shell crab, we had frog legs. So the funny thing is that towards the end of the meal, I was like, oh, it's so fun, we get to feed the gators. And the waitress looks at me and she goes, yeah, if you come back next year, you'll be eating that one. He's looking big already. Everything that we ate was from that water.
Oh.
And it was the best food I've ever had.
So you're fattening them up for the next year.
Exactly. I'm saying the best food I've ever had. And she had me eating frog legs, and I was like, okay, these are good.
Was that around here?
It's about 3 hours away. It's Henderson, Louisiana. But if you go out to like Houma or Thibodeau or Lafayette, that's all Cajun country, which is like an hour and a half. That's pretty big. Cusco and all the cracklins, all the really good Cajun food. It's out there.
There was a movie, years ago, and it's about the Cajun people, but it presented them as things that unfolded, and if you went in their territory, they were gonna trap you. No.
No?
Almost like it was a drama. It wasn't hard.
How about the one with Burt Reynolds and the airboats and
Oh, that's
stuff? The police.
Deliverance.
No, not Deliverance. There's another one he was in.
What is that movie?
Yep, you got it.
I know it, but I can't think of the name of
This
it.
one had to do with, it was almost like the story of 10 Little Indians, where they were like a military group, and the Cajun, they lived in Cajun territory, and their military, whatever. And the Cajun, they were by one. So they were, yeah, they leave up signs, so they put their necks, so there would be dead rabbits, and then they were missing.
One of the cool things they do out in Cajun is they have the Cajun Navy, like, which is who comes in every time something floods. Because they have the boats, they have like the airboats they come in. Any, like when Baton Rouge flooded a couple of years ago, they came to Baton Rouge. They went, every time there's a hurricane, they'll go wherever it is. Like they went to Florida, they went to Texas during Harvey, Cajun Navy. Like they get there a lot quicker than anybody else. They actually were a lot of people that came in during Katrina to start getting people out. That was a big part of what happened.
Go ahead to the girls,
Where
please.
everyone got stuck.
All right.
Like 8 charity hospital people were stuck for about 10 days. Because it was a charity hospital, the government didn't send anybody. So one of the nurses at her dad actually showed up and said, go ahead. He's like, I'm getting you out of here. And she's like, I'm not leaving until you get the Cajun Navy.
Oh, yeah.
Literally evacuated the hospital. That is a beignet and then a colada.
Oh, yeah, bring a second.
I'll spend it, sorry.
Where's it color?
That was a little soda.
Yeah. What is the color? Yeah, bring
So, y'all know what a beignet is, right?
Yes.
It's powdered or fried dough with powdered sugar on top. So colas are, people love to call them gluten-free beignets, which I have a little bit of an issue with, because they are gluten-free, okay? They're absolutely gluten-free, they're rice. But why I always think it's a little bit strange is that where lots come from, so this is gonna take a breakdown to make this make sense. So New Orleans is part of the French colony initially, so that meant we were French and then we were Spanish. So I'm pointing we were Catholic colonies. So slavery looked a little bit different in New Orleans than it looked in the rest of the American South. If you really look, our history actually looks the closest to Hades than anywhere else. Like we look very much like a lot of what happened in the islands, particularly Haiti, like the way we grew up, the way things changed, how everything sort of came together and came apart. It's very, very similar. The first slave revolt in the Haitian Revolution is what actually really kicked that off here. And that's really when things started to shift in this area too. So when you look at it though, we had something called the Code Noir. And it was a set of rules and regulations for the treatment of the enslaved. It was done under Catholicism. So one of the regulations was that you actually could work to buy your freedom. And I always bring it up because we don't see this anywhere else in the South. It's really pretty unique to this area. But you would have particularly women who would sell goods like colas. They would sell cake, they'd sell pastries, cafe au lait, coffee, pralines. That's kind of where it starts. And they walk around with baskets, and you would always, and men would do it too, but you would always buy a woman's freedom if you were going to do this. Because the idea is that once you buy her freedom, it falls down the maternal line, so that it makes everybody else free. We had a whole community of people known as the free people of color. They were people that were either born here unenslaved or had bought their freedom. It's really kind of cool because it makes you realize that people in this area were able to accumulate wealth faster, run businesses faster. If you ever go up Esplanade Avenue, it's the street that runs outside the French Quarter. There's these gorgeous Creole mansions and townhomes. A lot of them were African wealth that built those because they're already able to establish themselves by that point in history. But colas were actually first created by the enslaved people. And it was mainly because they could not get their hands on the flour that they were using in the kitchens. But rice was plentiful. We had tons of rice. So they would actually take rice, roll it up, add their spices, their seasonings, their sugars, fry it, and then it was honey, usually in condensed milk or something of that sort on top. But you would actually see the ladies with the kola baskets walking around and they would sell them. Pralines were the same way, like I was saying. Cafe au lait actually started that way too. Rosanna Codd, she's probably realistically the first female entrepreneur we had in the city. She was of mixed descent, so she was what we call Louisiana Creole, meaning she definitely had a white parent somewhere along the line. But she started selling, because we have chicory coffee. Chicory is basically a way to stretch out your coffee supply. You take the chicory plant, you grate it down, you add it into your ground up coffee to make more coffee when you don't have any. Reason being is we don't grow coffee beans here. They come from the islands, but if there was some sort of, supply chain break, we'd have to figure out a method. It just doesn't taste good when you brew it that way. It's bitter. If you ever have chicory coffee black, it's not great. My dad used to drink it, and I still can't figure that one out for the life of me. But people started adding cream and sugar, or milk and sugar, to make it more palatable. Well, Rosanna Codd used to walk around with a cart, and she would actually sell cafe au laits She made enough money to fund her freedom and then made enough money to open up a coffee stand. So she's realistically the first female entrepreneur that the city had, which I think is kind of cool.
What's her name?
Leave that, Rose Nicole. There used to actually be a restaurant down on Frenchman Street with that name, but it closed down and it's something else. Something else now, but that's the same concept right there. Problems are similar.
Rose Ocon?
Nicole, it's Nicaud.
What is the French?
It's French.
Nicod.
But the other one, pralines, if you have, someone was asking me about pralines earlier. Yeah. So pralines are also a French item, but the thing with pralines is it's condensed milk, it's cream, it's sugar, it's boiled down, and then it's created into like a candy, is what it is. But in France, you use almonds. That's what it was. It was praline, so it was almonds. Obviously, we get here, we have pecans versus almonds. So they just started shifting the pecans in. That's where praline comes from as well. I love them. I think they're really good. I was telling, I think when I was talking to you earlier, Aunt Sally's is all over the place. I really have not great feelings about Aunt Sally's, to be honest. They're chalky. They kind of have that weird, like, you know when you put something that's that sugary on your tongue, it just sort of dissolves?
Yeah.
It just,
I
it
think
doesn't,
that's what I bought yesterday.
it has no texture almost. It's just like a hard candy.
Yeah.
I really like the ones
I
that
got
are a little
you.
bit chewier, that have a little more depth to them.
Yeah.
There's a lady who sits up at usually the weekends, sometimes the weekdays, her name's Miss Gurney. We take buses up there for a tour, and she'll come on our buses and sell pralines. She's really good because I can't eat anybody else's anymore because I love her so much. But the ones I like down here, Loretta's in the French market,
Loretta's.
is really good.
Beignets.
Hers are
good beignets.
really good beignets. She does stuffed beignets.
Where's Loretta?
Oh.
Her stall's in the French market. Her shop is actually in a different part of the city, but the stall is at the market. They do a stuffed Nutella beignet, they do a peanut butter and jelly beignet, they have muffins, they have a whole bunch of stuff there's other than pralines and
We had
beignets.
a tour bus and they recommend, they
Yeah.
said, don't wait online when you see these long lines, because you're on vacation, don't waste your time. Go to Loretta.
Go to the next one.
We tell people that all the time. We're like,
Yeah.
please get out of the Cafe du Monde line.
Right. I won't
You know,
wait online.
In all fairness, the Cafe du Monde down this way by the river, that's the one that everyone talks about. It was actually morning call first, then it switched to Cafe du Monde. But it just doesn't taste the same
Sure.
anymore. It, like even a couple of years ago, because they would stay open 24 hours, and I would only go there late at night because it was some of the best people watching I've ever seen in my
Cafe
entire
du
life.
Monde?
Oh.
Like you'd be drinking coffee at midnight and eating beignets and being like, whoa, that's a guy in God knows what costume that is. Or, you know, it's entertaining. And then ever since COVID, they've only been open until 11 o'clock. Their beignets don't taste the same to me. They taste hard. They're not quite that fluffy. Like these are really fluffy, I've always noticed.
These are good.
Cafe du Monde's also a chain now. That's the other thing. You can go to multiple ones. The one in City Park is really good if you ever get up that way. If you really want Cafe du Monde, you have to have it. The Riverwalk Mall, their beignets in there, they have a Cafe du Monde, and those are actually really good in there.
What's
I
the
was
one we
thinking
peeked
about
through the
that.
window? We
That
peeked.
was the one on the
We
river.
peeked through the window just as we
one
went
right
past
there,
the
right
church,
outside the park.
near the
Yeah,
church.
that's Cafe du Monde right there.
But I said, I'm
Oh.
not waiting online for it.
Yeah.
No, but we were on the inside. I looked through the window while he's throwing them in the dough.
Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
them throwing them in. It's kind of cool. I walk past it all the time. I love their the frozen cafe au lait that they have. It's great in the summer when it's hot. My mom, when she brought me here when I was a kid, she fell in love with that drink. And she made us buy her.
Is it sweet?
It is. It's kind of sweet and creamy.
Okay.
She made us buy her one every single day that we were here, and then she spent the rest of her life trying to find another one. And nobody ever told her they were only here. I don't know why no one ever told her this.
Right.
Like nobody had them anywhere else, and I was like, Dad, we really screwed up. Like, what are we doing?
What's this one
But I
called?
always drink one on her birthday because it reminds me of her. It's kind of a cool
Kala.
thing.
Kala.
That's the kala. Yep.
Kala.
What is it?
It's basically rice, sugar.
No, but what's the name?
Oh, kala.
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 Have you heard the story about the lady that sells them in the
I know, but I didn't
That's
get the name. Kala.
They're good, yeah. They're good.
They're really good. With the honey.
Yep. I always just get weird when people are like, they're just gluten-free beignets. And I'm like, no, there's a whole story to where they actually come from. We gonna walk it off.
You don't walk it off.
We have one little walk left, so we'll walk it off.
No way.
No way.
We have one little walk left. Yep.
Come.
I am not.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's the brand.
other choice is to sleep. Yeah, I can sleep.
I mean, I won't stop you from sleeping. But if you wake up and I'm sleeping on the other couch, don't be surprised. I have 3 hours after this.
Yesterday we walked about 10 miles. We walked all around here.
I wanted to walk every street in the quarter.
So we ate some bad stuff like this, and I said, you know what? We
Bad stuff.
You know what
So
I
I
mean?
tell everyone, everyone's like, how do y'all eat this food all the time? Like, we walk all the
You
way.
walk.
We don't.
The city's not big. You
You
can
can
walk
walk it
the
up.
whole city if you really. I've walked end to end before. It took me a couple hours, but I've done it. It's not really advised, but I've definitely done it. I bike in a lot too. It just makes it easier. Not like this weather, but and I live over the bridge, so it takes not the big bridge, the bridge going this way. So it takes me a little longer, but it's fine. Okay.
See, before I came here, I thought New Orleans was this big giant thing, and it's this little tiny thing.
It's tiny. It's tiny. I used to take
different
people,
neighborhoods.
Different neighborhoods. People either think it's massive or they think it's just the French Quarter. There's like no in between.
Yeah.
I had a lady on a tour years ago. It was a cemetery tour, and I would take them into the Basin Street station up on Basin Street because there's a giant map of New Orleans. You can light up. You can see where it flooded during Katrina. You can see where the levees broke and everything. You also can see the whole city, so it's kind of cool. And I had this one lady go, "But where do you all live?" She's like, "Y'all must like commute in, right?" And I'm like, "From where?" I'm like, I'm trying to figure out where she's going with this. If you look, there's water around us almost everywhere else.
Good.
And I'm like, "Where do you think you're?" She's like from other states? Like, y'all must just come in for work. And I was like, "What do you think we do? Like, we're not getting flown in. Like, this is crazy."
Right,
But-
neighborhoods here.
Right, there's neighborhoods outside the, I mean, the French Quarter is a neighborhood too, people live down
Yeah,
here. A lot of the tops of those restaurants and stores are apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you think, all of them have courtyards, there's all buildings in the back of the courtyards. They honestly would have been most likely slave quarters or carriage houses
Mm-hmm.
when they were built, but a lot of them are apartments, is what they are now. So that's what's in the back, like, there's people that live all over this area, you just don't see them. Realistically, if they had, with the way New Orleans sits, the French Quarter doesn't flood, because we're a higher point, we're right at the curve of the river, so the water goes the opposite way when we flood. So realistically, if we had never ever built out of the French Quarter, it wouldn't be such a danger zone. In that example, I would say, I read somebody write this in some article recently, that the way to actually make the city sustainable is to build up the French Quarter and basically make that many people live in it. It's impossible, but that would be
Yeah.
how you do it, because trying to reinforce the levees constantly, trying to contain the waters,
So when you had the
Lose my-
hurricane, where they had all that flooding, the French quarters was safe?
Yeah.
during Katrina, yeah.
Wow.
They were okay here, yeah.
It actually, and that's what caused a lot of the confusion during Katrina, is that the city didn't start flooding until after the storm. Basically, the storm was already gone. It was in another state by the time the city started flooding, so all the newscasters were saying New Orleans was okay. Like, people were literally about to come home. Like, everyone that had evacuated was making their return plans, and then it all got halted because word started spreading about what was going on. So the areas that started breaking, like the levee started collapsing, and there were 7 collapses. And when it happened, you went from either having a little bit of water, like a foot or two, to 12 to 15 feet in about 5 minutes. And the problem was that where this was happening, I mean, not the problem with flooding, that's obvious, but why nobody knew it was taking place, is that it was taking place outside the French Quarter. All of the news was coming from here. So, and nobody could call out, nobody knew it was happening. It took about a day and a half to 2 days till people were literally coming out of the water and being like, this is happening over here, you've gotta send, you've gotta figure it out.
Right.
And then it took, from that point, it took 2 more days for the city to declare martial law, which we're not really fast at anything ever. This would have been the time to be fast, but we weren't. And by that point, they could send in the national government, but they had to send the National Guard, which the National Guard station here was underwater, because it's in the area that completely went under. It's
Right.
it's in Araby, so it's just outside the 9th Ward. So all that's underwater. They can't even get out of there. So it's to the point that it takes almost 2 weeks to get anybody in the city. So New Orleans was basically trying to swim on its own to
Was
some
it-
degree.
This direction that was flooded?
No, so this direction's the river, going this way. So if you look at a map of the city, you've got actually, I'll leave you my map.
Oh, yeah, right, I know. River's right there.
River's this way, French Quarter, right? And then if you look, so river, quarter, lake, this area going this way, if you go right outside the quarter, like towards the Frenchman Street, the Jazz Museum, the Mint, that way, that's the Marigny neighborhood. Then it turns into the Bywater. That's all the 9th Ward going into the Bywater. And then you hit a canal. And then on the other side of the canal is the lower 9th Ward. And then you get out of the city that way. That's where Araby is, St. Bernard Parish. That's where the National Guard was. That area, because the levee collapsed at the canal line. And then it collapsed from the lake up here. So the water came in and in. And then spread around this way. So all of this area, mid-city, all of this was basically flooded. The quarter was dry. Part of like the lower garden district was dry going through the CBD, but it was starting to flood up that way too. It was 85% of the city. It was just these points that didn't get hit. The Marigny escaped a good chunk of it because they're still in the natural levee line, but right about the point where the levee line ends is where it started to fall apart.
So this area was flooded?
This area was not. This area was
Yeah, I was
not.
gonna say,
It definitely had wind damage, structural damage. Even we got hit with Hurricane Ida last year, and that was on the anniversary of Katrina, of all the weird things
Oh,
that
wow.
happened.
Oh, that was weird.
It was eerie, is the
We
best way
got
to
hit with
describe
that
it.
real bad.
But yeah, that storm kept going. I'm like, she will not give up. Like, everyone was flooding from that storm. We actually didn't flood in the city. The bayous flooded really bad. Like, those cities out there, they went completely underwater. Grand Isle got completely knocked out, which is a barrier island. But we had a ton of wind damage in the city. Like, we had structural damage. We were out of power. The wind was so strong, because I was here. We ended up not evacuating, and we didn't think it was going to be that bad. I mean, the storm started at 10 in the morning. I think the power was out by 11. And it was out for 7 days at my house.
Oh boy.
And then I remember about 3 or 4 o'clock that afternoon, because it really didn't feel that bad at first. It felt like a tropical storm. And then about 4 or 5, somewhere in that range, it's like the ceiling fell out and the whole thing, and it just kept picking up and picking up. I was in my kitchen pouring a drink at one point because there's nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked in my back, I have a back room that used to be a porch that they enclosed. And I watched the wall just bending. Like, I watched it collapse almost in, and I was like, we're just gonna shut that door and hope for the best. Like, my ceiling caved in at one point, my windows caved in. And I was like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, we just close the door, because there's nothing, I think if the storm had gone on longer, the whole wall would have actually come in. I have a friend who had a tree come in through her house, like, it was nuts. And then the next day we all wake up and the power's off.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going on. Like, there was a, because I live right by where the levee broke in the 9th Ward. And the reason that one broke was because a barge got loose and actually slammed into it and cracked it. There was a point where a barge had gotten loose, and we're all like, oh great, we know what happens now. And then that barge actually pushed up onto the levee and like landed, and then caught fire the next morning. My poor friend who lives 2 blocks away from me, she was driving around and she's like, there's a barge on fire? And I'm like, okay, because I don't know what to say at this point. She goes, well, I called the fire department and they didn't answer. And I'm like, okay. She goes like, oh, 911 and they didn't answer. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, who do I call? And I'm like, I think we're out of numbers is the state we're in right now. I think we're gonna have to figure out how to put that fire out. And somebody did put it out, but it was like, you're kind of on your own to some degree.
We had a metal fire door, never had a flood in 20-something years.
Yeah.
The water from Ida came in, and he said, I wasn't home, he said it was bending up.
It's bent like a Pringles. It's bent like a Pringles chip. I had to push it back in and get my son's barbell and stick it in the bathroom, the corner of the door here and the corner down there to hold it. It was peeled out so far. It was a metal door just like this.
Yeah.
I'm taking up my car to move to higher ground. I'm like,
We never had water in our basement.
I swear that was the storm that wouldn't quit. That storm was actually stronger than Katrina. It was a different path. If we had been in the actual eye of it, I think we would have had a lot more problems.
Was there a lot of deaths from Katrina? I imagine.
Oh, God,
the
yeah.
city death count is about, let me think, just over 1,100.
It's a lot of people.
Literally about 850 people though were from the same neighborhoods.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
We also don't have the resources for it either. Like we understand running water, not frozen water. Okay,
I guess
stop
we're here.
To show you this man. You see him? Yep. He's a butcher. If you can't figure that out.
Okay.
This is Duck Alley right here. This so that's what he's doing right here. It's not an artist gallery. There's a lot of cool things back here. But I always love him because he pops up on people and people think he's real. Meaning me, I know he's there and I do it every single time. I came by on a tour once and someone had put googly eyes on him. I had to stop and take a picture, so like I guarantee it won't be there when I come back, and it wasn't. It was priceless. This whole alleyway we were walking down. And this is Decatur. Oh, we did see that.
Decatur.
Another one. Yeah.
What are those rice ball things called?
Collier? Cala?
Yep.
Looks like it's C-A-L-A.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You forgot.
Pretty expensive, huh?
Yes. Oh, the ones you had on yesterday?
No, D4 umbrella. My umbrella.
Oh, your D4? This is only D3 rain.
If I have an umbrella, it's big and I just throw it away.
Where the hell are we going? It's raining like crazy. Where are we going? It better be good. Getting all silly on us. Is that shop?
No, different shop.
Oh. Oh, and he was acting like his things were unique. I guess Tom Selleck endorses this place too.
Maybe.
So I'm going to show you where we're at right now. This is Lower Decatur Street. I think I was telling somebody about, I think it was you guys back here I was talking about earlier, so Decatur Street. So this is the lower portion, meaning we're going down here, out of the French Quarter. The old U.S. Mint is at the end of the street right here.
Oh, okay.
But if you look, that's the Joan of Arc statue right there. The city of Orleans, France did give us Joan of Arc as a present. We've managed not to destroy it, so it's still there. But right behind there, the building is at the top and then it's wide open. You know, for those bricks? Okay, that's the yeah. See right over where you can do the top? Okay. That's Central Grocery right there. They are the home of the bread sandwich. So the Florida is a non-style sandwich. So the muffaletta is they slice off the two top pieces of the round loaf that's traditionally out made. Now it's different slices, obviously. But it's a lot of Italian like mortadella, prosciutto, a lot of different gabagool, a whole bunch of different things lined up in there. And then provolone cheese usually on top. And then they make an olive with salad. Not the jardinera, if you're familiar with that. Jardinera is spicy. This is just that olive, salty sort of flavor. And then you heat it up and you heat it warm. It's fantastic. They got a ton of hurricane damage during Ida, is what that is. So they haven't actually reopened yet. The people who've been begging for their sandwiches for so long, because they've been around forever, since the early 1900s. So there's a liquor store right next door called Sydney's. They're actually selling the sandwiches right now.
Muffalettas.
They have them right there. They're cold because they're in the fridge, but they are the original sandwiches. A lot of the places in here also
Muffaletta.
have them and in the actual French market. But I just wanted to point that out because people always think about that one. They're curious where it is.
So when they talk about the market, that's the market where you get raw oysters and things.
Close. So this is the market cafe. We're going to walk down where the French market actually starts in just a second. Yes, you can get oysters in there. There's a whole bunch of things in there. We'll walk down so you can see it down there. Okay?
Good. I was wondering where the market was.
Yeah, I told you it was here. We saw it on the bus and you said no, that's not it.
It's too small. I thought it was bigger. Everything seems bigger.
This is all it. Look, see inside.
Do you want any of this?
Yeah? So super big.
I thought that said frog. F-R-O. Good call on these ponchos.
I know, I can't believe it. I mean, I wish they didn't have to.
I mean, I see one of the dark dress, right?
Oh, I saw this from the bus. Come here, I like their clothes.
Sue. Just ditch it. Thought we were gonna lose someone at the dress shop. Oh, sorry.
This is the French market right here. So I always bring everybody down here because there's a bunch of places going on. Corporate was asking me about massage places. There's actually one right over here somewhere. So the French market is on this side. This is Lower Decatur Street on this side. So the French market is actually the oldest open air market. Dates back to 1791. This was a French trading post and a native trading post at that point in history. Took a really weird turn in the late mid 1800s. This was actually a brothel district at that point. Just remember, they were buying different things at that point in history, okay? It's now the way we know it. There's a ton of food stalls. There's oysters, Loretta's pralines and beignets are in there. There's a bunch of different food options. There's more gator. There's more, you know, like Cajun, New Orleans style food. A lot of really cool artwork, local vendors, jewelry. I buy like rings and necklaces there all the time. Lots, kind of a cool way to go spend a little bit of time. If you're curious, there's also going this way. There's a really neat little bar. It's right past that sign right there. It's called Molly's. Molly's is like an old Irish dive bar, but they have one of the best drinks we've got in the city. Have y'all heard of the frozen Irish coffee? Okay, you might not want it if you're cold, but I had it cold the other day. It was actually really good still. It tastes a lot like, you know, the Frosties from Wendy's. It tastes a lot like a Wendy's Frosty. It's cognac, rum, brandy, and then they do coffee grounds on the top, so it's a coffee flavor. They also do this cool thing where you can mix in shots. My favorite's the peanut butter whiskey, just so you know. So it's a good little deal. They probably do have warm coffee today, I'm guessing, because they usually switch up when it's cold out. But it's just kind of a cool little neighborhood bar. They're the original spot for the frozen Irish coffee. Betty's up on Dauphine has it. Aaron Rose over on Conti has it. And then there's a couple other places scattered that also have it. There's only about 3 or 4 within the French Quarter. It's iconic. Everyone talks about it all the time. But if you keep walking, Jazz Museum, the old U.S. Mint is the next block up. Right past it is Frenchman Street. That's where all the jazz clubs are. There's probably not a lot happening now, but by tonight, there'll be music, there'll be tons of bands, there'll be vendors out there. Really better version of Bourbon Street is what I'm trying to tell you. Did y'all have a good time?
Yeah.
Very
Thank
much.
you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
Very interesting to walk up to walk over Esplanade. I hope you're full. I hope you had good drinks. If you like the tour, go write us reviews. It's Tour or Leave. It's the Boozy Brunch Crawl. Come back and see me next time you're here, okay? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
What's your name? I'm Carolyn. Carolyn. If you need directions or anything, please ask too, okay? Thank you guys so much. Don't know where you're going to?
You want to go check out the French market?
Hold on, we got.
Go check it out. Are you gonna walk back? Okay.
Don't go crazy.
I'll probably be there. Come see me.
So 20 would be good.
You want this?
Whatever your heart leads you. Okay.
You're going from here.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good one.
Could we have a photo with you? Oh, pardon me.
There's Loretta's.
Oh, Loretta's. Sue?